Welcome to The Explainer. Today, let's talk about that amazing feeling of being completely in the zone. You know, that state where you have this effortless focus and you're at the top of your game. Our journey to understand it, well, it starts in a really unexpected place.
So, this quote, it comes from an absolute genius, but maybe not the kind of person you're picturing. He wasn't talking about performers at the circus. Nope. He was talking about machines he built with his own two hands.
That's right. Get this. The man whose work on information theory is literally the reason you can even stream this right now was, in his spare time, completely obsessed with building little juggling robots.
Shannon's story is just the perfect way to dive into this powerful mental state that I guarantee you've experienced yourself, whether you had a name for it or not. You see, Shannon wasn't just some stuffy mathematician. He was a tinkerer, a builder. He unicycled through the halls of Bell Labs for fun. He just got that this kind of deep, playful focus was the secret sauce, the key to unlocking creativity and solving huge problems. And that brings us to the science behind that exact kind of focus. So, fast forward a few decades, and a psychologist named Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi decides to study this state of deep, effortless concentration. And he gave it a name that honestly just perfectly captures the feeling. He called it flow. And you know this feeling. It's when you're so absorbed in what you're doing that hours can feel like minutes. The rest of the world just kind of fades into the background. So, the big question is, how do you get there? This chart illustrates the whole idea brilliantly. According to Csikszentmihalyi's model, flow lives in this very specific sweet spot. If a task is way too hard for your skill level, you feel anxious. If it's a total cakewalk, you just get bored. Flow, that happens in the perfect channel, right in between, where the challenge is pushing you just enough to keep you totally engaged. Researchers have pretty much pinned down the key ingredients of this state, and you can see them right here. And you've probably felt these before, right? Maybe playing a sport, getting lost in a creative project, or even just a great conversation. Your inner critic goes quiet, time just disappears, and the activity itself, well, that becomes the reward. Okay, so we've got a great psychological map of what flow feels like, but what's actually happening inside our heads? You know, can we physically see it in the brain?
This is the million-dollar question that researchers are trying to crack. And what they've found so far has created this really fascinating scientific puzzle.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Scientists have found evidence that seems to point in two completely opposite directions. Some brain scans show increased activity in the prefrontal cortex. That's kind of like the brain's command center for focus. But other studies, they find the exact opposite, decreased activity, especially in the part of the brain that handles our inner monologue, our self-consciousness. It's a total paradox. Is the brain working harder, or is it quieting down and letting instinct take over? So for right now, the brain's exact signature for flow is still a bit of a mystery. We know it when we feel it, but we can't just point to it on a scan and say, there it is. At least not yet. But this whole conversation about intense focus, it isn't just about peak performance for everybody. It's actually becoming central to how we're starting to understand neurodiversity. For years and years, this trait has been framed in a negative light, seen as a problem or something to be managed. But a lot of new research is starting to ask a really powerful question. What if we've been looking at this completely the wrong way? I mean, the similarities are pretty striking, aren't they? Both involve that deep concentration, that warped sense of time. For a long time, the biggest difference was just perception, how we talked about it. But recent research does suggest there might be a subtle distinction. Hyperfocus might be linked with higher levels of perseverance, which can sometimes make it tough to switch from one task to another. And this is a really crucial shift in thinking. By understanding the mechanics of these states, we can move away from thinking in terms of deficits and instead learn how to harness them. We can start turning what was once seen as a challenge into a powerful, unique strength. So, what is the story of a juggling genius and some confusing brain scans and the nature of focus really mean for you? From Claude Shannon's workshop all the way to a modern neuroscience lab, the main lesson is actually pretty consistent. That feeling of being in the zone happens when we're doing something that is just difficult enough to keep our full attention, but not so hard that we get overwhelmed. It's all about finding that personal sweet spot where your skills are perfectly matched to the challenge in front of you. And maybe that's the real lesson from Claude Shannon and his little juggling clowns.
Maybe the true value of being in the zone isn't what we accomplish or what we produce at the end of it all. Maybe the real reward is just the simple, profound joy of being completely and utterly lost in the moment. And that's a feeling worth chasing.